86. And I'll just stop there for a moment and press enter so you can see that it actually did add up those values. But I'm going to continue, and something else to note is up here in the editor bar, you can see the formula also if you just double click or click next to within the cell. Either way, you can work on your calculations this way. So I'm going to go ahead and continue editing. Plus 24, right? I can do this all by hand. Plus 42, and so on. So I could do that, right? And it'll keep adding everything up just like I'm using a regular calculator. And I can always see what I've got typed in there in the editor bar and fix anything. However, there's an easier way, which is to do sum. So SUM means to add up. And then select all the values that I want to add up and press enter. Then I can also count how many values there are. So if I use the equal sign again, I can count, then select all those cells again, and it'll tell me there's 11 values. Another thing I can do is my mean, which is equal to this amount divided by this amount. This is called a relative formula, where it's referring to previously calculated values. Or I could have just said equals 435 divided by 11. Oops, not D11, just regular old 11. There we go. And you can see that gives you the same answer. Also, I can use the average formula, selecting all the cells again, and you can see I get the same answer. Now here's the thing. All right, so to do the median, you're going to want to first put your data in order from least to greatest. So what I just did is I highlighted the column and then I went to data, and now I'm going to sort it from A to Z, or least to greatest. Now I'm also going to move this over to make room for counting 1, 2, 3, right? And then I can, again, when it becomes a cross, draw it here. So there's 11 values, as we saw before. And when you have an odd number of values, you'll have a single middle value, which is convenient. So if I go in 5 values from one end, and you don't have to do what I'm doing right now, I'm just doing it to help visually, and then 5 values in from the other end, then I'll get that middle value, which is my answer. Okay. So this is my median right here. Now, if you had one more value on here, let's make one up, 92. You would have a different scenario. You would not just use a middle value. I'm just going to back up, get rid of all of that. All right, so if I put in 91 down here, add another value in. I don't have a middle value anymore because I have an even number of values. Another way to tell how many, sometimes it's easier just to look at, you might have noticed, the row numbers. But the reason I chose to actually make my own counts is because sometimes, a lot of times, you may have stuff above, and it's just easier to count it that way. But you know, in this situation, since it's all the way at the top, actually this serves to help you count. But anyways, I can go, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I know what half of 12 is. Half of 12 is 6, right? And then I can do it the other way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so these two middle values right here, I'm going to use those to get my median. So I'm actually going to take the average of those two values. So just add them together and divide by 2 to get your answer. So then the median would be equal to the two middle values added together, quantity divided by 2. So that would be your answer in that scenario. Finding the mode, that's the value that's repeated the most often, also easily identified when they're in order. So I don't actually see any values repeating here. So the mode is, there is no mode. The mid-range, often the median and the mid-range are often confused because they both make you think of middle. But the median is a position. If you can think about the median in a road, it divides, it's that halfway point, it's a position between the two roads. Whereas the mid-range is also a middle, but it's the middle on a number line. It's not the middle in position when they're in order from least to greatest like the median is. The mid-range is actually like on a number line. So when you think about range, you should think about the maximum minus the minimum. That gives you your range of values. And the middle of that you find by averaging those two extremes. So to get the mid-range, you add together the smallest value and the largest value, and then divide by 2. Okay, so remember, the range, you subtract the values to get the range, but the middle of the range is actually a middle point. It's not, we're not looking for half the distance, because a range is a distance when you subtract the two extremes. And half of the distance is not what we're after. What we're after is an actual point in between the smallest value and the largest value. That's why we added them, to get the midpoint.